Where we at? What are we doing?
What's up, guys? I'm Taylor at GoPowerSports. We are out here at the GoPowerSports Ranch today. This is our Megalodon. It's a Megamoto 212, but on steroids. This thing is full suspension. We've got the bolt-on swing arm kit. It's got front and rear hydraulic brakes, electric start 212, which is really sweet, and then a bolt-in battery. This engine also has a stage 1 kit, so it's got tons of power. And today we're going to be riding this thing, and then we'll go back to the shop and I'll show you how we put it together.
Let's head back to the shop and we'll build this thing up. All right, we are back here in the GoPowerSports shop. I'm Taylor.
I'm Flacco.
And today we've got the Megalodon at the very beginning stages. We just took it out of the box, laid out all the parts. We're gonna dig right into this thing. So to start, this is the old Megalodon battery box. If you got the original Megalodon battery box, you're going to need to leave about 2 or 3 inches on this side because of the clamp, the mount. If you have the new box, which we will be using, it clamps right onto the jack shaft. We're gonna start out with the swing arm. We're gonna start cutting on this frame. We are not gonna leave a nub because we're using this new battery box. So, let's get the grinder.
Cut it flush.
Get cutting. Now that we have the frame prepped and ready for the swing arm, we got to install the bushings. Get it pop right in.
Nice. Beautiful fit.
Here's the axle, got all our washers, axle nut.
So now we are disassembling the swing arm pivot mounts.
So how many brackets are you getting?
4 total.
4. 2 swing arm mounts and 2 shock mounts. So swing arm mounts go just like that. Due to differences in the frames, see how that is touching right there? Sometimes they go right on, sometimes they're just off a little bit. So we're gonna take the grinder, knock a little bit off of this bracket to get this to sit.
All right, y'all, so now that we got everything cut off, cleaned up, looking good, nice and smooth, we're gonna come to the back and start with our swing arm pivot mounts. Like I said earlier, we're just gonna finger tight everything now. And as you can see, it'll sit right off in there like so. So you got 2 lock collars on the rear of it, and you got 2 lock collars on the top of it. That'll keep everything nice and supported. Remember, when you're tightening your lock collars, you don't want to completely tighten down one side. Kind of keep your space even in your lock collar. That way you get a nice centered lock.
Now we got the brackets on. We are going to hang the swing arm in the brackets. So let's start, when I do one washer. Yeah, one should be.
Yeah, that's plenty.
We're not gonna fit another one in here.
I'm up against my bushing. There we go.
Bueno.
Beautiful.
So due to differences in the frame, again, in here, you will space with the provided washers. We just needed 1 on each side. That's gonna give us the perfect quench when we tighten up that bolt. Perfect. No side-to-side play, completely free up and down. Shock mounts.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna mount them our traditional way. Remove these, and they'll go just like this.
Try this again. There we go.
Beautiful.
Going that way, right?
Nope.
That way.
Yep.
So who's the Megalodon for? Like if somebody is looking for a bike, who would be looking at the Megalodon versus anything else?
Somebody who wants to beat Bobby Hammond at the 180 next year.
Well, it's an electric start engine, battery, headlight. Once you build it, it's really just a sweet all-around complete mini bike. If you don't like pull start and stuff all the time, it's got electric start. If you ride at night, it's got the headlight. I mean, it's really a versatile bike. And now with the swing arm kit, you get a full suspension Megamoto 212, which is awesome.
There's somebody who wants like a Cadillac.
There's Cadillac.
Off-road
Yeah.
Cadillac.
We're gonna go in this front hole, which is gonna give us the tallest ride height. This is pushing the swing arm down further. And it's also the cushiest because you're losing leverage coming forward.
Yeah.
So if you want stiffer, move on back to these rear holes.
Yeah.
I would recommend starting in the middle and then adjust it once you start riding.
And these are the nitro shocks. Right?
Yes, these
are
are
the-
the boy nitro shocks.
Nice. They're cushy.
It's actually the same one included in the 80 kit.
It's not just a spring. You actually have some rebound control.
The spring itself is adjustable, and if you look close, you got a thread here, and that's more ride height. So you got a recoil and compound adjustment in there, then you got a ride height adjustment down low. It'll give you like another inch.
Okay, swing arm's done.
We're gonna move over to our battery box. This is the new battery box we spoke of, and it'll mount right yonder. And you see it's got the lock collars. You mount it on the jack shaft assembly right there. All right, so now that I got it disassembled, you'll see that the battery box sits off in there, like so.
So while he's getting that battery box in, you're getting that front end ready?
Front end. So, let's take all this apart. You want to grease these bearings. They are completely dry. Make sure that your races are nice and clean, especially since you've been grinding and whatnot on the frame. Get those perfectly clean. We're going to go ahead and put grease on the races. Then this top one, you can pack it pretty good. The bottom one is pressed onto here and it's really difficult to get off. So we're just gonna shove it in there from the top as much as we can. This one, you can pack like you would a traditional bearing. Squeeze it in there till you see it start coming out the top in between the needles. Coming out all the way around. All right, that one's good.
While he's doing that, you got the battery box in.
All nice and snug. You can see everything clear, nice and fine. You won't have to wrestle with your battery box strap. Go sideways so you can just boom, boom. Easy peasy. Everything will be nice and open. You'll still be able to run your fender. A lot of people don't like that, when you do things, custom things to bikes, you end up ditching your rear fender. With this, you'll be able to keep your rear fender. Yeah.
Keep that mud off your back.
Yeah, very, very important.
Fully greased. It's in there as much as we can possibly get it.
Top one too. Keep nice and greased. Can't miss. That'll slip right down on yonder like so. Look at one hurt. All right. Yeah, that's it.
And then you use one of the little skinny shims, then your top crown.
Last crown nut.
You're going to want to make sure your pinch bolts are loose, and they are. And the shock should go right up.
And it is a left and right to these.
Yep.
You'll see that one of your shocks has the brake mount. Your brake mount is going to go on the left side. So when you see the brake mount on the shocks, just know that that's to the left of the bike.
So the top of these shocks have a shoulder piece on them. It slides up inside the top of the triple. Make sure you get that up there as you're tightening your bolt. You should see it just pull right up through. So then go back and tighten your pinch bolts. Ready to put in the front wheel?
Let's do it.
So spacers on this bike, it's super easy. These are the front wheel spacers. Same size, left and right.
Going up.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Let's go ahead and do the front fender while we're up here.
So when you put your fender and your headlight on, remember that your radius on your fender is going to go forward. You see one side is going to be flat, one side you got a round radius end. That radius end is going to go forward, and you'll also see you have a radius on that bracket. It matches with that bottom tree clamp. So you don't get
Lines up real nice.
Yep, lines up perfectly. And the headlight will have a radius too. It matches that bar. I can take my 210s, set them through there. So, drop them down in there. They'll go up there. Get you a set of ratchet wrenches. It'll change your life.
While Flock was getting that tightened, you're getting the
Risers
risers
off.
Double check your headlight bolt here too, because it's not completely tight from factory. So just make sure that's nice and snug. This is the bolt that adjusts the tilt of your headlight. You don't want to lose your headlight.
I think we're ready for these.
The bars. So run both brake calipers through the left side of your trees or your forks.
So just like Flacco was talking about on those collars back here, same thing with the handlebar risers. You want to make sure you tighten them evenly side to side. Try to keep your gap the same.
All right, y'all. So we get a lot of calls, emails, and questions a lot. I can't get the plug out of my brake. When I say plug, I mean this wedge right here. And you can see I can't pull it out by hand. Reason being, before coming down here to take this out, you got this guy right here. There's two wedges. I'm gonna go ahead and pull that off. But you see, what you have to do is squeeze your brake, remove the wedge. That'll release pressure down here. And then pull that right out. Flacco told you first. And so now we're gonna move over and get the front brake assembled.
So this little cable guide bolts in just like that.
No spacer, no washer, direct, both straight to the frame. Easy peasy. So take that guy, wrap him around your cable. Lay them against the frame, and you have another hook on the bottom of it. With that hook, it's just like your front brake hooks. You want to make sure you use a grommet. Should be another one right underneath.
Up there?
Yep.
The hardest part of the whole build.
Probably the most difficult part of this whole entire build, so make sure you pay attention. If you don't have your volume up, cut it up now. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Right side. Stay hydrated. And you'll see on the left side, this one actually has a notch. That's for your cable where it came through on the other side. It's kind of high. One way you can tell side from side. Pig.
Yep.
You want that bend sticking out, and I'm holding that spring in there. I'm just holding it with my thumb. Kind of got it lined up. So that bend on your spring is gonna go over that C channel. And again, I'm just gently holding it. Take your pin, like so. Go through there, and then you'll have to put a little bit of pressure on your spring. Put a little pressure on your spring, go down through it, and you kind of manipulate the peg a little bit. Make sure that you use your washer before you use your cotter pin. Just like so. Stay like that. All right, y'all. So you see what we have here are all our jack shaft components. We got our driven pulley, jack shaft itself. That's our jack shaft gear, hardware for jack shaft gear, and our jack shaft hardware along with both keys. Longer key is gonna go underneath the driven pulley, obviously, and the shorter key will go underneath the jack shaft. So what I like to start with, be a washer first, then go ahead and slide the jack shaft gear on there. Make sure you insert your key inside your jack shaft sprocket and the jack shaft. Then the actual jack shaft washer itself, lock washer, and the jack shaft nut. And you want to impact these on. Be sure that when you're impacting it, if you do this barehanded like me, don't grab that jack shaft in the keyway because it will cut you. So you don't need a super tight grip, just pop it a couple times. As long as your lock washer is nice and flush, it should go anywhere. It's perfectly fine to have a little play in your jack shaft key. That'll save you a chain and jack shaft sprocket, and you want a little bit of play there. Go ahead and slide that guy in. We're gonna go over to the other side. Taylor gonna get y'all right with the drip.
Washer on this on the jack shaft. Key tallest way up, like that. Washer, nut. Perfect.
Looking for a nice free spin.
Yep. You not want to crush those bearings.
It's hard on your belt, and it's even harder on your jack shaft bearings.
I like to make sure on this that the hooks are pointing back. If they're forward like that, they can catch on something, pop off, and your kickstand's dangling, you lose the race because you keep dragging your kickstand. So, hook that like so.
Yep. Very nice.
These are shouldered, so go in nice and slow and make sure your bolt is working its way into the kickstand. Got our throttle. Got to take out the 2 screws. These are Phillips head screws. Plastic piece. Just go ahead and go all the way in for the initial, then you can adjust out. Enough thread for the jam nut. Come in on the cable side and push your barrel end out. Guide goes back in. And then just start your screws.
Go to this side. And what I like to do when putting these on, go all the way up against it and back off a little bit. That way you don't have contact on your throttle side and it'll spin and twist free. It won't jam up.
Yeah, if you're having a sticky throttle, that's the first thing I would look at.
We're gonna move over to the old infamous wiring harness, the rectifier. The rectifier will go mounted right in between the bottom two cross ports. It already comes with that M6 installed, so what you're doing is pulling that out. I like to go with my plug downwards, and you'll see that it actually won't fit up. I'm fitting between the poles. Really? Plug down, like so.
So now that we got the rectifier mounted, it's only one plug for your rectifier, that's the big 4-prong. And it'll go snap right into there.
Take these bad boys. So you got one for your kill switch, you got one for your headlight switch, and you have your charging port. What I've already done was dug out. If you look inside your headlamp, kind of have a dig inside the actual headlight itself, but you will find the plug for your headlight and all them plugs in here. So you really can't mess up. This one will be a 3-prong for your headlight, or 3-wire. My headlight switch, 2-prong or 2-wire, and your kill switch, which will be a 2-prong male link. So once you get them all connected, to get them out of your way, you got a little compartment inside the headlight, that little square. Same spot you found the headlight plug.
It's these. We come over to our rear fender next. What I'm gonna start with is my rubber grommets. And I'm just kind of finessing a little bit at a time. I want to get them sit nice and flush. And you see on the bottom there, it's not flush. So what I'm doing is working around it. On top of the rubber grommets, we have a brass grommet. Those will poke right off in there. And for now, take this bad boy. And we have 2 8mm per each side. So make sure that you add your rubber washer in between the bike and the fender itself. And you got 2 10mm in the bottom of it. These are tricky, man.
So these are like a stamped lock nut. Don't just torque the heck out of these and crush all that rubber out. Just go nice and snug. The adjuster goes on the bolt. We're going to come all the way forward in the slot, get the chain on, and then adjust from there. I just released the shim that's up here in the master cylinder. And then you can pull this piece right out. This is the brake caliper hardware. Allen head bolts. First goes on the lock washer, then the flat washer.
And your caliper will go on the inside of your caliper bracket. And obviously the discs are gonna go in between the brake pads. Slide down there and so. And in between the caliper and the bike itself, there's no spacer, no washer, no anything. It bolts directly to the bracket. Easy peasy.
So leave one loose, then you can pivot the other end. You gotta come up. Yep. Beautiful.
So you can see here, you got 2 hooks on your seat. And you got this crossbar. Those 2 hooks go underneath the crossbar. And when you come on to the back yonder, you see you got 2 M6 bolts.
And that's a comfortable seat too. I would say 212 is one of the most comfortable rides you could get on.
It's my favorite seat.
Yeah.
So in your box that you will receive with all the extra parts, you'll have a 5-foot piece of chain. Find the master link. Pops off super easy. This is definitely long enough. I think we'll be able to adjust it out. Yeah, so you're gonna have to cut it. So let's go all the way forward. Knowing that we have to cut the chain. And when you're marking where you need to cut, the inside link will be revealed after you cut it. If you were to cut it here, it just wouldn't work. You'd have to, yeah, can't use a master link. Should be right there.
Infamous.
Which way does it go?
Pac-Man runs backwards. Make Pac-Man run backwards.
I always say tail trails. So the tail end, like the opening end, is pointing backwards. You want it, say it's like an arrow pointing forward, or it will pop off. Okay, now we're going to adjust our chain, and we'll be ready to rock and roll on the engine upgrades. I'm happy over here.
Close.
All right, so we cleaned up the table a little bit. We have the roller portion complete on this Megamoto 212. I have to remove the seat just for ease of filming so you can see everything we're about to do. We've got the Tillotson 212 electric start right here. Let's get it on the table and I'll show you what all we got to do to it. The 212 Tillotson electric start, the stage 1 kit, which we'll show you how to do. So let's just start taking stuff off the engine. Because with the stage 1 kit, we get a different intake and a jet for the carburetor. And then we'll be taking off the exhaust because we get a header pipe and muffler. On this vent coming out of the valve cover, these have a baffle in there. So I just leave it open and point it down on all the engines that I run. A lot of guys like to put a filter in there. I leave it open and point it down. Up here for the tank vent, you definitely want to run a filter. Get the exhaust out of the way. Okay, let's get this off. Because the kit comes with a new gasket. Don't drop any of it down there in the port. So this is the charging coil coming out of the engine right now, which we'll be replacing. So let's unplug that. Brown coming out from the engine. This wire feeds back behind the flywheel. So this brown one, we will not use anymore. So we're just gonna go ahead and cut it, and then I'm gonna wrap some electrical tape around it. Let's go ahead and get the intake stuff done. Just get that out of the way. So we gotta pop the bolt off the bowl. Don't drop your rubber seal. You're gonna come in here with a flat head. Don't drop your emulsion tube. We need the jet out of here. So the jet is always taped to the filter box somewhere in here with a yellow card, so it's super hard to miss. So back in with the emulsion tube and the bigger main jet. back on with the bowl. Filter adapter, choke bracket. It goes just like this. Elongated hole where it mounts to the adapter. That's just loose right now. We'll tighten it up after it goes on the engine. Rubber air cleaner gasket, filter adapter. 2 6mm nuts. You're gonna need to work these on evenly. Snug one up, then go to the other and keep working back and forth in increments. Now you can go ahead and tighten up this choke bracket, which is a 8mm. I like to use these little bitty wrenches for this. And that is slotted so you can move it back and forth and perfectly line it up on top of the choke. So get it where you want it and then hold it down. Nice. Okay, now for the dual coils. We're gonna pop this side cover off. Be careful not to yank on any electrical stuff. Now we gotta pop the flywheel off. Take these off, set them aside. Nut back on so we can remove the flywheel. You don't wanna just hit the end of the crankshaft and damage the threads. So get you a hammer, little pry bar, and these do not take a ton of pressure. Just like that. Back off this coil. And back this all the way out and then tighten them back. And that gives you room to pull this flywheel off. This gives you clearance for the starter ring, basically. Make sure your key's still in there. Now, we gotta remove this single coil. So take off this guide. Now for the dual coils. Comes with your mounting bolts, which is nice. Before we put these on, we're gonna change this end so that we can plug in to the Megamoto bike. It doesn't have a clip like this. It just has 2 males. So we're gonna put 2 female ends on here so we can plug it right in. Cut this as close as you can to the end. Get your little room. We're gonna strip these, twist them up. If you don't twist them, you're gonna have a heck of a time getting them in the connectors. On there nice and tight, make sure. All right, that is good to go. Now we can go ahead and make this pigtail while we're doing this. That is secure. I'll show you where to put that in a minute. Okay, back to the coils. These are gonna go just like this. And they have little bosses on them that recess in the holes. This impact is on the lowest setting. Probably a good idea to do these by hand if you haven't done a bunch of them. Do not forget to put this on, or else these wires are just gonna get eaten up by the flywheel. We'll go ahead and start this bolt. Make sure that the wire coming out is in that little slot. And also ensure that this hole is lined up with the threaded hole on the block. Coils are on and tight. Bracket is on and tight. Those aren't gonna get sucked up into the flywheel. This is loose and free. So let's put the flywheel back on. And then look in your keyway. Make sure the key is still in there between the flywheel and the crank. It is. Boss goes in the hole on the flywheel. Flywheel's tight, on. We've got to reset the coil gap. You're looking for 17 thousandths. Most business cards are about 17 to 20 thousandths. You want these just tight enough where you don't have a bunch of side-to-side wiggle. Just front and back on the slots. Put your card in there, push it back down. Turn the flywheel over. Sometimes you can just pull it out. All right, back on with the shroud. The flywheel on the coil If you have it somewhere over here, it'll try to grab your shroud and just makes it trickier. So if you rotate it over, line it up over here, it'll be free of everything. So this is the ground that will hook up to the battery. It was up on this bolt right here. We are removing it from there and switching it to the back because it's not long enough to reach the battery. Okay, so we're gonna start these 3 bolts, and then I'll put this ground on this bottom left one. Double check you're using the long bolt up here. Sometimes these can be a little tricky, so loosen this one right here, and then you can kind of tweak the cover around to get this bolt in there. Now, the ground. This needs to be sitting on the block. If it's just out here on the powder coat, it will not ground. So make sure it is fully against the engine block. And we're gonna point it straight back. You don't want it protruding down where it'll get in the way of mounting the engine. Straight back, just like that. Now, I can show you this. So the pigtail that we made, we're gonna put it on, and we're gonna switch this out with a longer lead that we supply with the battery box kit. 10 mil. Don't lose any of these. I like to rob this off of here and put it on the longer one. It's flexible enough, you can just slide it right on. We have the pigtail that we made. This wire was already on here, so leave it on. It's coming from the electrical box. It's the only wire coming out of here with an eyelet, so make sure it is on there. Let's go like that. We're gonna point this lead straight down. So then you do your flat washer first, lock washer, and nut. And do your best to get this up there and cover it. So it's a lot easier to put engine oil in it now. We're gonna go ahead and do that. We're gonna go ahead and loosen up the throttle. Make sure that's free. In this engine, we're gonna use the Tillotson 4-stroke engine oil. It's always good to measure the oil. You can eyeball it up to the threads if you're on a perfectly flat surface. I like to get exactly 16. So this is the harness that is on the Megamoto 212 bike. This is one solid wire. Cut it, stripped it, putting the butt splice on. Ensure that's a good connection. So now let's go ahead and strip this other end. Get it ready. Now we can go ahead and strip the pigtail that we made. Go ahead and twist it. Now the battery, we're gonna go ahead and put that in the battery box because it can be a little tricky with the engine in there. This ground we're gonna leave in. The nut is in there, it's facing up. This side, we're gonna put it in sideways because we're gonna run the wire in on this front side of the post. And be careful, battery is good for now. I think we're ready to put the engine in there. And this can be a little tricky with all these wires going everywhere. So we're gonna be real careful. Let's go ahead and fish this through. Make sure nothing's bound as you slid it in there. Okay, now let's get our engine bolted down. This one's tricky. I always use a magnet from this side. Let's see how easy that was. Now I'm just looking to get it as straight as possible to the driven pulley. That'll ensure our belt is running straight between the two pulleys. All right, we can go ahead and run this ground. We're gonna put it, you don't want this getting caught up in your chain or anything. So we're gonna fish it through the middle of the jack shaft. You don't wanna hook this ground up first. We're gonna do the positive first and then the ground. So just leave it kind of up here out of the way. Okay, I was gonna run this through here. Okay, so can you see right here? This is that pigtail that we added with the eyelet on it, and then we stripped this other side. So we're gonna twist this together with the splice that we made on here. That is good. Let's go ahead and do this ground before we forget about it. This is gonna go to this tank mount right here. We cut the slit in it because you can't take the nut off with the starter on. So this is gonna allow us to simply slide it on and retighten the nut. We're gonna put it facing backwards. This will be in between the block and the starter. So these wires that will plug into the regulator, this is the Megamoto harness right here still. These brown wires need to go onto the coil. This is the dual charging coil that we put on the bike, and then we put on these female ends. Those plug into the brown wires on the Megamoto harness. And they should snap right in.
And it doesn't matter which, so they're the same.
Nope, either way. As long as your two brown wires coming off the harness that have the male ends go into your dual charging coil that we put on the engine. So now, since we cut the brown wire coming out of the starter box on the Tillotson, we are left with one black female end. That is right here. So this is going all the way back to the Tillotson starter box. This is the kill switch on the Megamoto harness. It powers your kill switch up there. So we're gonna plug this male end into this female. Now we're left with a bird's nest. So after I run this lead wire back to the battery, we'll come back up front and we'll clean all this up. We can go ahead and snap this in. So now this lead, we're gonna run it up the frame and back to the battery. We will zip tie this all here in a minute when we're cleaning up the wiring. So we're gonna be hooking this long lead that is on our solenoid up front to the battery. So remember how we put this nut in there sideways? Now we're gonna be able to access it from the front. I like to always just put a little socket on these just to make sure they're good and tight. Let's get the cover on. Here is our ground that we relocated on the engine to this back bolt. We fished it in between the two jack shaft mounts. So to keep it away from the chain, we're gonna kind of loop it around this way. That. There it goes, nice. We made this long so that you can follow it up this whole frame rail on the inside. Now for the negative, and we'll put the battery strap on there. Battery strap. That will just kind of help us get this strap on. These can be tight, especially if it's cold outside. Boom. Now this is, to me, the hardest part of the entire build, making it clean. Really, you just don't want anything dangling under your engine plate. Like, that's bad. All right, so I'm gonna zip tie this. Make sure nothing's being yanked harder than it should be. Nothing's dangling. That's not bad. You see that?
Yeah.
The easy way to get the plug out of the exhaust. So there's no gas, so it won't fire up. Our battery has power. We're ready to rock and roll. Exhaust gasket first. The pipe goes through to the other side of the frame. Same thing as the intake. Work these on evenly. And make sure you have a nice good seal on that exhaust gasket. Recheck your cables that you zip tied up. Make sure nothing is resting on the header pipe. You can go ahead and slide on this sleeve. Mini muffler. These are really sweet, lightweight. It will just go right on the end like that. You do not want to run it all the way down and bottom it out. I like to go out right there. You want your clamp right at the end. That will give you the most clamping power. Header brace. You have a couple different options for it. The bolt-on option will be on this side of the bike. If you look over here, you can easily, as long as you have a drill and drill bits, you can easily mount it on this side as well. This will give you the most strength, but it is mounted to the frame, which vibrates different from the engine. You could shorten this, drill a hole through here and here, or just use the letters and mount it essentially like that. But the bolt-on option is over here, so we're going to remove this bolt behind the driven pulley, wedge this in between the shroud and the block, and tighten that back down. And then we got to bend this around to where these sit flat on the header pipe, and then we'll run our clamp around there. Adding this one brace really adds a ton of support to the header pipe. Any header pipe really should be braced, especially if you're off-road racing. And then adding the muffler to it, even more so. And you can get as intricate as you want with this. Biggest thing is just having a positive contact on this header pipe to a third support coming off the engine. So now go back, double check this bolt and make sure you're still tight. We are good there. Header brace done. Let's pop the air filter on, Bernie. I always like to take a little carb cleaner or brake cleaner, just a little bit, or alcohol. Wipe off the inside of this filter because it can be oily. This will just help you get a nice secure fit to the air filter adapter on that carburetor. So before we put the engine on, we went ahead and loosened up this 10 mil headed nut right there. So we are free. I'm gonna fish this cable, just make it clean, just like that. Then you need a 10 mil wrench to hold this. You gotta back this up enough to where you can get the cable through there. So make sure your throttle is closed, that's forward. Get it started so your cable's not slipping. And then come back with the 10 mil wrench, hold this, and finish tightening. Torque converter. We are going to start with taking the crankshaft bolt out. This key needs to come out too, because the torque converter has a built-in key. So we will start with our torque converter cover brackets. This top one goes just like so, with your mounting holes going towards the back. I'm gonna take a 5/6 24 bolt and lock washer. This one comes with the hole, I guess, kind of forward of the crankshaft. So like this. Now we are good to go with our actual torque converter. So the back sheave with the bushing goes on first. Rear sheave is on, bushing's on. Now you're gonna put on your belt. This is a 203 590. So there's a flat side and a beveled side. Match that up to your pulleys. The rear sheave closest to the engine on each pulley is flat, straight up and down. And then the other side is angled like that. So that'll match up to your belt. Make sure your two flats are lined up. And you'll put in this piece, which lines up with the key, bolt, and lock washer. So if you lose your bolt, this is a 5/16 24 by 1.75" long bolt. All right, that is good. Now we're gonna slap on the cover. Pretty self-explanatory how this goes on. Bigger portion goes over the driven. Double check, make sure all of our holes line up. They look good. So let's get the seat back on, fuel in the gas tank, and then we're ready to crank this puppy up. We got everything together. I'm gonna go grab our gas jug from up front. We'll set this on the ground so that we can sit on it and hold the brakes. Just in case, you never know if your throttle's gonna get hung wide open. If there's an issue when you were putting the torque converter on, you never know. Better safe than sorry. So always be sitting on it with the brakes pulled or have it up against a wall. So let's get the gas, get it down, fire it up. So we have gas in the gas tank. We double checked and made sure we had oil in the crankcase. We're gonna check our kill switch. Kill switch is on. Choke the engine. Now always double check your kill switch. That is functioning. Headlight. The final step in this build is we got to give this thing a shakedown. So we're going to load this in the truck, head out to the GPS ranch, and test it on the GPS 180 mini bike track.
All right, guys, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think about this bike. It's a really sweet kit. So you can check this out on GoPowerSports.com. Just type Megalodon into the search box and it'll take you right to it. In the description of this video, there will be a link straight to this product. Also in the description, we will show you all the different tools that we used to make this build. So stay tuned and watch our next video. Thanks, guys.